I'm closing deals left and right now. I'm actually I'm
Yes.
making money that I never even dreamed of making. And there's only a select, like, I mean, a handful of people in my life that even have any idea that's going
Megan, we are
on.
finally doing this. Yeah, that's the intro. Thanks so much for being here. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Finally got you in a
I'm
coffee shop.
stoked. Yeah, in a coffee shop where everyone's studying quietly. So I will be the annoying one today. Um, yeah, I'm honored to be here. This is full circle moment for me because I learned, everything that I learned from listening to your podcast and your YouTube videos. So yeah,
Thank you for being here. I
yeah,
think everyone around you is going to know your story afterwards as well, as you're sitting, as you're sitting
it's
here.
an interesting one.
Can you tell us okay, tell us who you are and then tiny bit about your background before mobiles?
Okay, yeah. So my name is Megan. I'm in Houston, Texas. Um, let's see. I guess
H-Town?
the general, yeah, the general gist of it is I had my first child at 20. We decided I would be a stay-at-home mom. My husband was a waiter at the time. And so, we didn't make like a ton. And we were just kind of financially strapped all of the time. And it was really stressful. And so anyway, I didn't want to outsource raising my kids. That was really important to me to be home with my children. And but it was also really difficult just constantly making financial sacrifices all of the time. And I just finally came around to the idea. One time my dad just was like, "Have you ever thought about real estate investing?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, but I'm not a millionaire. Like, we know this." And he just was like, "Well, start listening to those podcasts, whatnot." And so I tried to go the conventional route, but obviously not having an income and my husband's credit like was it needed work, and I couldn't do real estate like real property. And so I felt really down about that. And my dad just said, he sent me one of your YouTube videos, and I just read the thing that said mobile home investing and rolled my eyes and scoffed. And I was just so offended that he thought I would do this. and, but um, out of respect for my dad, because he's wrong very rarely, I listened to it, and as soon as I listened to it, I'm like, this is literally the same thing as investing in real property, but just less difficult and way bigger returns because you're talking like 100%, 200% return on investment in 2 or 3 months. I mean, then that's like a long time. You can do that in 2 weeks. So as soon as I listened to it, I was hooked, obviously. And listen, I just soaked up everything that I could. Again, like I said, I started by just listening to all of your YouTube videos and listen to you on Spotify. I mean, cleaning the house, doing laundry, doing the dishes, running back and forth, in the car, just listen to you constantly. And yeah, so that was kind of how I knew I wanted to do this. And then I think after maybe 2 years of that, I wound up in a situation where, because I hadn't had my own vehicle this entire time, and I had always had like really little kids, like, young, that were really dependent on me. I wound up in a situation. It was like 2020. We got a stimulus check, and just so happened that my best friend was selling her old car for $1,000, and I was like, "Dude, I'll buy it from you." So I buy her car from her. And my son had just turned 3. He was my youngest at the time, and he had just turned 3. So it was like a reasonable age where if I needed to drive around or leave him with his dad for a little bit, like we could do that. It was workable. And so as soon as I realized I was in the position, it was like, I'm going to do something. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to do something. Mind you, I didn't have a dime to my name. So I don't know why I thought I was about to just start investing. I didn't have any money. But so yeah, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start driving through parks. I'm gonna find a really good deal. And then once I find a really good deal, somebody will fund it because it's a really good deal, right? I just felt like I know enough that I can get a good deal. And once I get a good deal and I explain it to somebody, I don't know who yet, but someone will fund this deal. So sure enough, I tell my dad, which him and I were the ones who always talked about real estate investing. And at this point in my life, I'd been studying real estate investing in general for about 4 years and had never told anyone I wanted to do this. Like no one but my dad. So
Wow. Like
yeah,
studying with podcasts,
It's
videos,
like
articles.
I knew so much. I mean, if
Wow.
you heard me start talking about real estate investing, you would think I had been investing for years, and I hadn't done a single. But yeah, and it was like really like it was my thing internally. No one else really knew outside of me and my dad that I wanted to do this.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and I didn't want to be ridiculed because it was like, what, how do you think you're going to invest in real estate? Like you're a stay-at-home mom of two kids, you don't have any money, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I tell my dad just out of excitement, I wanted to share it with somebody. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to start driving through parks next week. I got little business cards. I made myself like an investment, email. I'm just going to do it. And he goes, well, he was like, if you want, I mean, if you're that serious about it, I'll front you the money. I know that you've studied for a long time. I'll front you the money to partner with John. And I was like yesterday, like, let's do this. So I think I hung up with them and I immediately went into, your course and I enrolled and you and I wound up talking and sure enough, we just decided we would, partner and that was kind of how we started.
I didn't I didn't know some of that. Let me close the store real quick. Um, to have that, like I got goosebumps, but you can't see them.
Oh
But
my
anyway,
gosh, for
but
real?
well, for you to have that, like, I don't want to say blind delusion because you weren't blind.
Yeah,
You were researching and stuff, but you were just still not delusional, but like people listening to this,
yeah,
that's a little like you were kind of sipping the Kool-Aid a little bit of what's
yeah,
going on. And like you
I
were
was.
believing it before you even made any dime. And
Oh
then you
yeah,
saw yourself as this, like what you can do. And then I'm
yeah,
going, like, I don't care, come hell or high water. I'm going through those parks, whether nobody backs me or not. And I'll
yeah,
find somebody. Like, I don't know how to connect the pieces, but I trust
right.
myself enough, or I'm just so friggin' tired of what I've been doing. Like, I want to do something better. That's crazy because that
I mean,
scares
when you
so many
listen to
people.
it, when you listen to other people say how they do it, it just makes so much sense. It's like, I mean, and I think also, and there's a really interesting parallel between, um, I'm gonna say motherhood because I'm seeing it through the eyes of a mother, but I think it would even be true just in parenthood in general, but especially as a stay-at-home mom, when you're raising your children, it's a 24/7 job. You're not getting thanked for it. You're not getting patted on the back. There's no validation for that really, and you just know that it's a long-term game. You're doing it because you're trying to raise children long term that are going to be healthy, well-rounded individuals, right, that love and respect you. And so investing is really the same thing. When you get into it, you're not immediately making tons of money. You're not immediately closing deals. Like you have to put the work in and day out, and eventually long term it becomes a successful business that actually changes your life and the generations after you because of the financial freedom that you've created. And so, yeah, it's really interesting because going into it, I was not expecting any kind of short-term gratification. And I'm used to
Wow.
long-term gratification. You know what I'm saying? I'm already used to that as a mom who has to put in so much work day in and day out with my children. And it doesn't just, I don't get a paycheck to do that. I don't get to clock out. I don't get an award. I don't get a degree. It's the same thing with investing. You just have to put the work in and believe that it's going to pay out later.
Dude, Megan, thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah,
I do not have that lens to look through
right.
uh as a mother or father yet. But the holy shit, that is so powerful
Yeah,
because it's like real estate investing is I don't know, kind of like, this is not a good parallel, but maybe like losing weight. Like if you exercise, maybe this isn't good because I'm no scientist
it
or anything,
is.
but like, but if you do the work, eventually, if I walk enough, I will lose weight. Okay, but it
Right,
might take a while, or it's like you don't even have to question that. It's like, okay, that makes sense. It's just how long do I have to do it before I get the results?
right,
And just like investing, like I guess if you do a poor job or you don't know what you're doing, it's going to take longer or you might make mistakes. But it's like yeah, it's not a question of if it will happen. It's just
right.
when, if you keep doing it and keep exercising and keep,
Yeah.
wow. But that delayed gratification is so, it's like I don't know if it's a prerequisite needed, but it kind of is. Like that's a really
It
good
is.
trait to have as, yeah, an
I think
investor.
it's why a lot of people don't succeed in this because, you're going to hit a lot of like downturns and you can have moments. I've had moments like this so many times where it felt like things were about to pick up. It was like oh, things are going good, the leads are rolling in, but then there would be an issue with capital, or there would be an issue with timing, or there would, you know what I'm saying? And it would almost just like nosedive. And you have to be able to like mentally tell yourself that it's gonna pick back up, like it's still gonna happen. So you really have to believe in what you're doing, because yeah, I think if you don't, no one else is.
That
No one
feeling,
else is gonna
yes.
believe you can do it. So yeah.
No,
But I
are there
mean,
going to be,
go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry. Well, it sounded like when you were talking before, like everyone was, I don't want to say negative in your life, but it sounds like you were kind of, maybe that's most of us. We have more negativity around us. So you didn't even want to tell people your thoughts or
Yeah.
feelings.
I think that I think it was just more of a like, I'm just gonna do it, and then people will eventually see that I'm doing something right. So we're at that stage now where like um I'm closing deals left and right now. I'm actually I'm
Yes.
making money that I never even dreamed of making. And there's only a select, like, I mean, a handful of people in my life that even have any idea that's going on. And
Wow.
no one else around me has any like my in-laws, I don't think they have any idea.
Not after this podcast.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah,
Oh
so
my
it's just been
gosh.
really like I've just really been a proponent of like keeping my head down and just doing the work and like letting the work speak for itself. I don't need to tell other people what I'm doing. Eventually it will just show. And I don't do it for recognition or for any kind of, somebody recognizing me for it. I really do it because I have a vision of financial freedom and being able to just live my life instead of work to live. And so that's what my goal is. It's not for other people to recognize me for what I'm doing.
Good point. Yeah, if that's why someone's getting into real estate, there's easier things you can do to show off or, you know,
Yeah. And
like,
yeah. And I think at this point, there's been many opportunities where I could have, you know, made it look like I'm a big shot. And it was just like, I don't even want to. Like, I don't know, especially because pride is a scary thing to me and I don't ever want to become prideful. So um, I really just try to stay humble as much as possible.
and you know how hard it was to get to this point that you're at in your
Exactly.
journey. You still have
Exactly.
more to go. And this business, I feel like humbles us in general for the people that we're kind of hanging around with and talk to and like,
Yeah. Yes.
uh, yeah, helping. I mean,
Yes.
folks in fragile situations that are like going through way more crap than we are. I feel good about myself. Like, oh, I thought I was having a bad day.
Right. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. I've thought that many times.
do you remember what that feeling was like after your first deal? It's been a long time for me. Can you to walk us through, I guess, after you closed that first deal, like after you sold it, what did that first deal look like? And did you hold the check or did you tell us about that?
I I always pictured that's what I would do. I think I actually imagined that when I closed my first deal, I was gonna like, and jokingly, because obviously you're not a baller after your first deal, but I was gonna like jokingly pop a champagne bottle and like
Yes.
just like make it a big thing. And surprisingly, I was really casual about it. I just went and closed the deal, and I think that was it. I didn't even take a picture of the check or anything. I think because at this point, and this is something that, and this just keeps happening to me, but it's like basically you set a goalpost, right? It's like, okay, if I could just close that first deal, then like I know I can do this. And then as you're coming up on like, and all of this takes time, so it's all a process. So you're all processing it as it happens. You get to the point where you're about to close that first deal, like you already know you've got a buyer, you already set a closing date, and it is exciting. It is. But when you're kind of coming to that goalpost, your brain is already like reworking that next goal. It's like, okay, well, we've got a buyer for this one. What's the next thing? What can we do to scale? What can we do to grow? What can we do to make this times 10? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think at the point that I was coming to close that first deal, I was already thinking, how am I going to grow this? Like, how am I going to, what am I going to do with this money now to make it double? So yeah, that's where my mind was.
How long ago from when we're recording this was that first deal, roughly?
That was like, that was September, I think, of 2021. So about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before that, you were studying real estate, like studying it and just
Yeah.
like consuming it and podcasts and all that, like you said, before you
Yeah.
got your first deal. Do you think in the last 2 years, how does mobile home investing change you as a person, or does it change you? And in so what way?
It does. It does. I mean, my mindset and my outlook on life, it's like constantly changing and just, I don't know. I don't think I can put it into words, but I think there's like this, it's almost like I would say this is probably a weird way to put it. It's almost like when you're a kid and you imagine being famous, you think like if I was just famous, like, you know, like life would change and everything would be different. And like, but then I would assume you become famous and really it's like, well, now what? you know? So so I've kind of felt that way with like real estate investing where I always thought like when I'm running this really successful business, which, and I hope that doesn't sound weird, but I would say at this point we're very, very successful. We're in a place where I always wanted to be. And the leads are consistent. We've got the capital, we've got private investors. And I mean, 2024 is going to just blow us out of the water. It's going to be insane. We literally have to hire for 2024 because I can't. I'm at my bandwidth right now, just doing like 5 deals myself on a monthly basis. It's like I can't keep up anymore. But anyway, you think you're going to reach that point, and like you're, I don't know, like something's going to be different, or you're gonna feel super successful, but it's like I don't. Like I'm still thinking of people who are 10 steps ahead of me. Like
Huh.
I'm not relishing in it. I'm not feeling like you've done it. Like that's it. You've accomplished like everything. It's like, no, I can always think of more that I can do. And not in a bad way. I feel really grateful to be in the position that I'm in. And I worked so freaking hard to be here. But I don't know. I'm just always thinking of like, what's next? How do we scale? How do we do this on a bigger level? How do we bring in a team? How do we do it to where, I get to, because I didn't build this business to work in it,
Hmm.
and always be away from my family and always be like not present with my children. You know what I'm saying? Because even when I'm there, a lot of times I'm on a phone call, I'm shooting an email, I'm closing a deal, drawing a paperwork, whatever. So I didn't build this business to work in it. I built it to work on it. And I think that's kind of just my goal right now. That's what I'm looking at, is trying to work on getting a team involved so that I can just kind of oversee everything and not be the boots on the ground anymore. But yeah, I don't know if that probably didn't answer the question, because I don't know if I can put it in the words, but I think the most surprising thing has just been that um, I reached these goals. I reached these places where 2 or 3 years ago, I would have thought like, that's it. Like you're so successful now. And it's like, I get there and it's like, no, there's more to be done. There's just more to be done. Not in an unsatisfied way though, just in an inspired way. Like, man, if I
And
can do this, I wonder how much more I can do.
yes, that is totally healthy and normal and
Yeah.
super healthy and
Good.
like a good business. And that there, I'm sure there were like moments that changed your business, like you're saying, like you're needing to
Yeah.
outsource more and automate. And so that'll be a big change. What was one of the first, or like, do you remember one of the first, maybe it was maybe it was a mental change
Yeah.
or some kind of epiphany that you had that like made things happen quicker? Or
There were two really pivotal moments.
meeting me, of course.
That look, no, no joke. I still
Re-pivoting,
haven't,
right?
I still haven't met you in person. We need to make that happen. But
You, that's true.
so yes, that was definitely, um, that was, you're worth its weight in gold. I think I've told you
Oh
this
my
like a
God.
million times. But yes, that was a big one. And then I think, for 2 years, I just struggled. I struggled so badly with keeping up with lead generation. As a full-time mom of 3 kids, like it was hard to ever find the time in the day. It was like there was never just time where I didn't need to be doing something. So trying to, put aside some time to work on lead generation, it was like I just kept failing in that area. And when you don't have leads, you don't do deals. So it was like business was just consistently so slow for us. And so we closed this one deal, and it was like our biggest deal. At that point, it was like our biggest deal. I think it was our third or fourth deal, and we cleared 30,000 profit on it.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to invest in marketing, because I personally, I can't keep up with lead generation. I need to start marketing. Well, I'm not going to say this is a bad idea, but it was the only thing I could do at the time. It was the only thing I could afford at the time. So I did outbound marketing. And I learned a really important lesson with this. Outbound marketing, you're marketing to people who may or may not need your product and who may or may not even get your marketing. And there's a time and a place for it. Don't get me wrong. I still believe in outbound marketing, but I think for the sake of lead generation for me at this time, I wound up actually not getting a single lead out of it. I think I paid like $1,500, $2,000. And I
Let
remember like,
letters, postcards, that
yeah.
kind of stuff. Okay.
And I remember when I paid it, I was like, if I only get one lead from this, leads generally, for me, if it's a good deal, it's going to double my money. So typically I'm going to make a minimum of 10,000 profits. I'm like, if I even get one lead from this, it was worth it. It was worth the money. I actually didn't. But what I did get was the knowledge of the difference of outbound marketing and inbound marketing. So that marketing wasn't going well. And I think I just called one of the other investors from your group and was talking to her. Shout out to Tanya. And she was I said, what are you doing for lead generation? Because like, I can't keep up. And, I sent all these postcards and that's not doing anything. And she goes, oh, I haven't really been marketing lately because I'm just getting so many through my website. Light bulb went off and I was like, okay, full stop. Every effort is going into my website right now. And so when she said that, yeah, I just was like, okay, that's where we're going. Thank God that proved to be the best thing ever. So she told me that, unfortunately, we at the time had a private investor who had invested in our company because they had seen, that we were doing deals and they were good deals. And I think they were making like a 1 or 2% return on their money. And so we agreed to pay them 10% annually. And so they invested with us. And I took a portion of that and I contacted this website creator guy that had been recommended in your group. And when I first contacted him, he was like, well, I have a no compete clause and I'm already working for somebody in Texas. So I can't compete with myself and make your website rank and then also make this other person's in Texas rank. And so I'm like, okay. And I don't think I understood at the time what that really meant. So then time goes on and I think like a month later, and I swear to you, this was just a God moment. Like God was just like, reach back out to this guy. Just see if there's anything he can do. So I reached back out to him like, look, I'm struggling. I don't know how to put this website together. I've got it. I know it's not too hard to do. Like, is there anything you could offer me? Like, just, it doesn't have to be your SEO services, but just something you could do. And he's like, well, for, this fee, I can just build your website out for you. And that should, in itself, that should help you rank just a little bit and that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. So we get started with him and he does our website. And within 2 weeks of him finishing our website, we got our first lead through it. And I was like, wow. And I'm thinking that was fast. That actually wound up being a really good lead. We're fixing to sell that one. It's going to be around 40,000 profit for that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a really good lead that came in like right off the bat. And then it just picked up from there. So like, I think a month after him doing our website, we had already got like 10 leads, which for us was like a really good, at that time. And then right around the time he finished our website, he actually said, hey, I reached out to the guy whose website I'm doing in Texas. And I asked him if he wouldn't mind me doing your SEO. And he said that that's fine. And so actually, as it turned out, I'm like, hey, well, you know what? That first lead that I got from my website, from you building it out, that first lead I got is supposed to pay out, this much money. Once it pays out, I'll hire you to do the SEO. So, and we wound up getting a few other leads in the meantime and sold those quicker. So we wound up paying him. So he just started doing SEO for us in October. And right now we're doing consistently about 5 leads a week. So about somewhere between 20 and 30 a month right now.
Yes.
More than I can even really process. Like when we hang up, I actually have to call about 6 leads that have come in the last week that I haven't even contacted yet. So
that is incredible.
Yeah.
And they've just been sitting there. I mean, that says a lot because you are quick to react and to have a buildup of 6 that you haven't talked to that,
I'm I was, for a while, I prided myself on, I don't think prided is a word, but, I really took care to get to leads within 24 hours, which for me was easy because as soon as I got a lead, it was like, I got a lead, right? Like I just wanted to immediately call them. And it's crazy to be in the position now where it's like, oh crap, like I have those 3 leads from last week and those 4 from this week, and I haven't even called them yet because I'm dealing with like this and that. So that the pivotal moment was definitely just realizing how valuable inbound marketing is, because as our site starts to rank, you know, even when we stop paying for SEO services, which means we stop paying for him to like help our site rank, our site is, it's already up there. And so people are, and also when people are coming to us, most of the time they're motivated sellers. They're looking for a solution. It pays for itself by leaps and bounds. I mean, what we've paid this guy to do this is maybe 5% of what we're going to make this year from him doing it. So that was it. And then also just having the private investor, the person who like saw what we were doing and wanted to be a part of it and make good money on their money.
All of your deals, well, actually, I don't know this. Are all your deals have sold for cash? Are you holding any for payments, rentals?
That's going to be another focus for 2024, starting to collect notes. I think we've just been really gung ho on building as much capital as possible. And, you know, like me personally, with me having my own income at this point, there's like, I've taken on more responsibility financially. Just like trying to help out when my husband, because my husband's a full-time artist. So, you know, when he has slow months, it's nice that I'm able to just like pitch in and help out. We're buying our first house in the next 2 months. And so, you know, like we're going to need a down payment and stuff. So, you know, we've just been like doing cash just to like really build as much as we can. And then now that we don't necessarily always need the cash right away, we're going to start collecting notes as much as possible.
That's incredible. And all for mobile homes, which you were
Crazy that I rolled
laughing
my eyes.
at. You
I thought
rolled
it
your
was
eyes.
ridiculous. I don't remember who it is. I think it was like actually a guy. He was on the Bigger Pockets podcast, but I want to say he was actually one of your students that called it an unsexy asset class. And that just won't leave my mind because that's really what it is. It's it's
We'll
an
take it.
unsexy asset class, but it's,
Perfect.
I mean, I actually like that about it because hopefully not a lot of people are going to come try to do this because, you know, they'd rather stick to real estate. You know, what's funny is I actually wanted to build capital doing this so that I could start investing in real property. And now we're at the point where we could. And I don't think I want to though. Like, I don't, you know, why would I do that? I don't, this doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I
Maybe
know
a
that.
few, maybe like a few Airbnbs or something. But other than that, I don't think I want to flip real property.
Did you now you are you've seen the light now. I mean, before you were doing it on faith, but you still were like in it to win it. Was there times that you were there multiple times that you really were going to give up or thought about giving up or
Well, short answer, yeah. And I hate to admit that because I'm not that person. Like I'm normally like when I set my mind to something, I'm gonna see it through. Like I'm gonna make it happen. And I don't think I ever like was really gonna give up, but there were times where there was just negative talk in my head, you know, just like you should just give this up. Like this is obviously not working out for you. So actually, funny enough, when you and I first partnered, like you know when so I don't know if people know this, I don't know if it's weird to say, but like you know we you and I signed a contract or whatever to partner. The day after, like I think I signed it that night and sent it to you. The day after, um my husband went to get an oil change in his car. Remember, we have our own vehicles at this point, and that was a huge part of why I was going to do this. He went to go get an oil change with his car. He pulls out of it the place, and his car is like shaking horrendously. And he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I don't know what's wrong with the car. We're gonna have to tow it. We're gonna have to take it to the shop." Lo and behold, that car wound up sitting in the shop for 6 months, and we were sharing my vehicle. But it gets worse. Um, a month into sharing my vehicle, which is at this point is the only car we had. And so me and you just partnered. I'm supposed to be hitting the road. I'm supposed to be driving through parks. I'm supposed to be putting out bandit signs, right? I'm supposed to be doing all this stuff. The day after you and I partnered, my husband needed my car full time for his job. So I lost a whole month there. And then a month in, my car totals itself. The engine blows. And so now we're two for you know like we have no car at this point. Thankfully my husband's dad had an extra truck, but it was like a gas guzzler. Like it wasn't something I was going to be able to do any kind of driving around in. And even if I could, you know, he needed it 90% of the time for his job. So anyway, Yeah, both of the one car's in the shop, one car is totaled. He's using a borrowed car at this point, and it's not something I can really use. And I'm scared to tell you, like, you're calling, you're doing what you should be doing, you're following up with me. Hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh man, like, I don't know what to tell him. I don't know what to tell him because I didn't want to tell you everything that was happening because it just felt like a bunch of excuses, right? Like, oh, well, my car broke down. Oh, well, and then just a few weeks after that, we found out we were pregnant with our third child.
Right.
So it was like boom, boom, boom. As soon as I started with you, I think within 2 months, we had a car in the shop, a totaled car, and I was pregnant and fatigued and sick. And I mean, it was a nightmare. And I called my dad multiple times and was just like, I'm not supposed to do this. I knew it. Like this just I
Wow.
wasn't supposed to do this. This is God telling me that I shouldn't be doing this. I need to just stay in my home and take care of my babies. And my dad said something actually really profound to me in that moment. He was like, no, I think that God is preparing you. I think he's pruning you. He's refining you of all of your kind of shortcomings and your downfalls and your negative mindset. I think he's just preparing you for what's to come. You have to push through this. You have to show perseverance, and you have to show that when God blesses you and when God challenges you, you're going to stay the course. And I was like, you're right. Like I was immediately like ready for the battle, and I just was like, okay, we're gonna stick it through. Like it's not how I wanted it to be, but we're gonna make this happen.
Go dad.
Yeah.
And wow, those, wow, we each go through our own mental journeys. I mean, there's just as much like there's a version where you did give up, or
Yeah.
or where other people are like, sure, people listening to this, or even in just in our own life. I know I've given up like on things
Just some
in my
things. Yeah.
life. Yeah. In what would it have been if I went down that other road, in
Yeah.
different ways.
I think
Um,
if you want it for the right reasons, I think it's something that
uh,
only you can give yourself. If you know you want something and you know that you're gonna make it happen, you don't care how hard it is, you don't care what you have to go through, you don't care what sacrifices you have to make. You're looking at the bigger picture and you're saying, this is what my life is gonna look like in 5 years. And you're dead set on it. No one's gonna stop you. I mean, really, this is a tale as old as time. I'm not saying anything new here. When you're set on something and you're doing it for you and you're doing it because that's what you want, you're gonna make it happen.
it's so good to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Like I feel well, just to reassure me, like I've lived this and I feel this and I see this in others, but
Yeah.
just the more validity that you're, other from other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I trust in myself more than like if I like I don't want to work for someone else's business or make their business real successful. Like I trust in
Right.
me. I can, you know, it's going to be you've made a bunch of mistakes and we've made mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
to get to this point. Like all of us make mistakes, but those make you into a even those test you. I mean, all the mistakes that you've made have made you into a more well-rounded investor.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's true in your personal life. That's true in your, you know, spiritual life. That's true in your business life. I think that I think that we should really, I see the world through the lens of the Bible really for me. And so I always think I go back to or in James where it says to consider it all joy when you're going through various trials,
Wow.
because they produce steadfastness and faith. And I didn't, I probably, totally messed that quote up, but all that to say that every time you're going through struggles, every time you're going through those nosedive moments where it's like everything just blew up in my face, those are the moments where you're being pruned, you're being refined of your, your negative mentality. And you have to push through that because I think that that discomfort and that struggle is literally what makes you grow exponentially. It's just about pushing through it. Most people they go through that and it's like, I just don't want to deal with it. You know, I can't do it. I don't want to deal with it. But if you push through it, that's where growth comes from. And if you don't grow, you're not going to succeed. You've got to be growing. So,
Ooh. If you don't go through those hard times, you will not succeed.
well, no, because if you I mean, if you stay stagnant, then nothing will change, right? If you don't change and you don't make any changes in the way that you behave, in the way that you think, in the way that you do business, you're not going to grow. I mean, that's just, I
And
mean,
yeah,
it should be a law of physics, really.
or if it's too easy, like you keep doing what you're doing and it's real easy. Oh, I have a
Right.
good business, but are you learning as much? Or I guess while things are going good, they're going good, but when it changes, to
Yeah,
adapt to adversity, overcome struggle.
always.
And it's
I
not
think
realistic that we're going to have a smooth coasting life. It's going to be,
no.
there will be a bunch of speed bumps, either now or in the. Thank you for mentioning all this. This is
Yeah.
really freaking cool. I love that we're having this kind of talk. Um,
Yeah.
we're um, we can talk about something a little lighter, but same
Mhm.
vein. Do you remember any any wacky, crazy stories that just made you go like, "What? Like, is this real?" Or
Yeah. Well, let me think. There's one, but it's kind of a long story, and then there's another one that's just kind of a funny short story. The funny short one is this summer I sold a home to a lady. We met at the park, the mobile home park, the office, and we signed everything. And then I said, the key is on a lockbox on the door. Let's go, let's drive over there, and I'll give you the key, and I'll take the lockbox. She's like, okay. So we both pull out at the same time, and I pull in there. I mean, it's a 1 minute drive, right? I pull in there. I'm sitting there for a few minutes, and she doesn't roll up. I'm like, what in the world? So I call her. I'm like, hey, is everything okay? And she's like, no, I had to rush over to my house. It's a few minutes away. My landlord has the cops over here. Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, what? I have, every business deal I do, I've got my three kids with me. So I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. And I'm like, well, you just want me to leave the key somewhere for you? And she's like, could you just bring it to me? And I'm like, okay, send me the address. Let me see. So she sends me the address. I check it. It's like it's a public neighborhood. There's houses everywhere. I'm like, and it's a few minutes down the road. I'm like, okay, fine. So I drive down there to give her the key to her new house that she just closed on, and she's cuffed in her driveway, going to jail. And I just had to walk up and hand her the key, and I was like, "Hey, everyone,
oh my
sorry,
God, what?
sorry you're going to jail, but congrats on the new home. I'll be going now." Yeah,
With like stolen money she paid you with
it
like,
was. So yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna ask you any
oh
questions.
my
I'm gonna go cash
gosh.
this check very
Yeah.
quickly. So yeah, it was really interesting. I think I actually wound up telling her I was gonna tell that story one day. I was like, that was hilarious. Yeah, I've never been through anything like that.
I never heard that story.
You may remember the other one, but it was our first really bang up deal. Like it was just a home run. And I talked to this when the seller first called me. She was explaining this home to me, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, this home's so good. And then I'm like, the catch is going to be the asking price, right? And I go, what's your asking price? And she said 4 to 5,000. And so I hang up and I call you right away. And I'm like, John, listen to this. I tell you the specs of the home. I tell you everything. And I'm like, and she said she wants 4 to 5,000. Like, do I lock it up? And you go, did she say 4 to 5 or 45? And I was like, oh, I was like, that's the catch. She said 45. And me and my delusion thought she said 4 to 5. So I call her back, and I think there was like a question I didn't ask her. So I asked that first. And then I go, and just so that I have it correctly here, your asking price was like a minimum of 4,000, and maybe like hopefully 5,000. And so however I reiterated it, I said four very clearly. And she goes, yeah. And I was like, oh. So I hang up and I call you back, and I'm like jumping up and down. I'm pretty sure my kids were like, what is going on with mom? I call you back. I'm like, she
What's
did
going
say
on with
I'm
mom?
like, she did say 4 to 5,000. And you're like, really? And so yeah, you say lock it up. Okay. So uh the day comes, I'm supposed to drive over there. It's 4 hours from me. I have a 6 month old, a 4 year old, and a 6 year old, and I have to take them all with me, of course. It's a 4 hour drive from Houston to Arlington. And I start this drive out, and I get just outside the city limits, and I'm letting her know because I actually had like a car rental mishap where I had rented a car because me and my husband were still sharing a car at the time. I had rented a car on Turo, and I don't know if you know what that is, but it's not like a store where you go in. It's people who sell, they like put their cars as rentals. This guy literally ghosted me. He just didn't answer when I showed up to pick up the car. So I lose like an hour of time. I finally just tell my husband, I'm just going to drop you off at your shop. I'm going to take the car and I'll be back tonight to pick you up. And he's like, okay. So we get outside the city limits. I just get outside of Houston. I call the girl to let her know there was a little bit of a mishap, but I'm on my way. And I don't know what I said or what she said, but she winds up admitting that they owe $4,000 in lot rent and that they have an eviction notice and that the home is going to be repossessed like the following week. I swerve off the highway. I park at like a restaurant right off the highway, and I call you. I call my dad. I call the park at this point, which is a lesson learned. Don't ever just go and close a deal without talking to the park first and finding out what the status of the home is. But I think this was like my third deal, and I was really excited. Anyway, so we did wind up renegotiating the terms ever so slightly. She was very offended that we wanted to offer her less after we found out she owes $4,000 in lot rent, which was really interesting. So then we set a new closing date, and I say, you guys need to be moved out. Everything needs to be clean, and then I'll come, So they're rushing me. They're like, hey, when can you come? When can you come? We really need the money. We really need to get into this new place. And our landlord needs the, down payment, like deposit and first month's rent or something. So we really need this check. They're like, we're moved out. They sent me a video of a room that was all clean. They're like, we need you to come. So I make the drive that day, 4 hours, all 3 kids in the back, right? Breezing past that like it wasn't an issue. I mean, that in itself was a challenge. We get there, and as soon at this point we didn't have a business account. So my dad was just paying with personal checks. I met my dad halfway, and he wrote the check for the exact amount and signed it. That wound up being a nightmare because I pulled up, and this home had furniture, boxes, trash bags, all on the outside. And I'm like, so as soon as I pull up after probably a 4.5, 5 hour drive, I see this and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just keeps getting worse. I immediately call the park and I ask them, are you guys going to load this off? Like, how does this work? And they're like, no, we won't take it. And they're like, you can call the waste removal company, like the trash company, and ask them if they're going to take it. So I call them and they're like, no, we're not going to take it. And I'm like, I haven't even walked into this home yet, and I'm already making calls about this issue. So I go in and I tell her, I'm like, hey, this check is for a set amount. And like right now, unless you're going to get this stuff moved off, like I can't give you this check. And she's like, well, if I don't get the check, then we don't have a deal because I have to move into my place today. Like the landlord needs to check today. It's like 4 o'clock, by the way. Banks close at 5. This goes on for about 45 minutes. And she had suggested that I just give her the check. She goes and cashes in, brings me the money back that she owes me. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't think that would be smart for me to do. So I can't do that. And she called me racist. and her husband and her mom were there, and they were like, whoa, like you don't need to, say all that to her. And I was just like, look, I just don't think it's like, I can't do that. It's not even my money. I can't do that. So what wound up happening is I'm like, okay, Dad, we're going to have to transfer her money because we have to deduct money from that stuff that she's not going to clean up. They still hadn't moved all of the stuff from the inside. Mind you, they were the ones rushing me saying, when can you come? We're moved out. We need the check. When I got there, they were still moving stuff from the inside.
Naturally.
Also, just so this is out there, it was the middle of August in Texas. The air was not on, and the trailer was disconnected from, I had my 3 kids. It was a total mess. So we wound up trying to transfer her the money minus what she owed us for the trash that she left. Wells Fargo winds up freezing my dad's account on suspicious activity. We tried like several ways. He tried sending it to her. He tried sending it to me so I could send it to her. So then we call my grandma and we're like, she'll probably do it. Like she knows that we run a business. She knows that we're not going to do anything crazy here. So she tries to do it. Wells Fargo ends up freezing her account too. And at this point, we're down to the wire. They're like loading up their stuff and they're trying to figure out, do we have a deal or not? And I didn't know what else to do. So I called you and I'm like, John, you're not going to believe this, but I'm about to lose this deal. Is there any way that for like a fee, like I'll throw you some money if you can do this for me? And thankfully, John came through.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I definitely remember that.
So we almost lost that deal because it was like just bing, bang. Like, just everything that could happen happened. And then So
Good.
anyway, I
Good.
wound up sitting outside of that home until 10:30 p.m. It was storming, it was raining, they were still moving their stuff. And finally my husband was like, you need to come home. Like, this is not, I'm not comfortable with this. And I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. So I just wound up having to tell them, like, leave the key. And I just had to trust them to leave the key somewhere for me once they were moved out, because yeah, so that was the other really interesting, just ridiculous story.
What a good, well, not at the time, but that is a, man, that you really wanted the deal. It tested you again, and you still got the deal done. What would have they have done if if like you said, okay, well,
I don't know.
I'm gone. Like, not like they had people lined up. How much over the 4 grand lot rent did you actually pay them? They must not have been walking with too much.
I want to say they really wouldn't negotiate down on the asking price. And at this point, I didn't have a lot of leverage because we didn't have a lot of deals. We didn't have a lot of leads. And this was a really good one. We were projecting like, I think 30, $40,000 profit. It wound up, I think we made like 30 something on it, 32. Um, and for at the time, that was like, I wasn't gonna just let that walk away.
Yeah.
So I don't think we negotiated down much. I think we wound up paying 4 to them and 4 to the park,
Okay.
and then we had to do a full rehab on it. So, and that was my first rehab. So obviously we were way over budget, way over time, you know, you know. So
That's
I learned a lot on that one.
Megan. That is like you're learning. I'm sure you learn on, yeah, on a number. Well, how many deals are like cookie cutter where they're kind of the same? Does that happen a lot?
Oh, now I'm starting to get into the groove of really knowing my numbers really well. Um, and just knowing my exit strategies really well, knowing how I want to do something. Like, as soon as I call a lead and I get the basic information, what's the, year, single, double, 3 bed, 2 bath, how much work would you say it needs? Is there anything major? Once I know like some of the basic questions and I check the taxes and I check the, is there lot reno, whatever. Once I know that, I almost immediately know a general estimate of what I think it will go for and what I can offer for it. And then based on where it's at and everything, I also usually have an idea of how I want to exit this deal, like how I want to sell it, or, that kind of thing. So now we're getting to the point where they're a little more cookie cutter. Yeah. And there's actually one that we just bought in the middle of October. Um, I think the guy originally wanted 50,000 for it. And I was like, I can give you 23,500. And that's truly my best offer. That's as much as I can afford to pay you. And if that helps you, great, let's do it. And if not, like, by all means, I mean, try to list it, try to sell it yourself, or, if you can sit on, I'm just finding a lot of people who, when they contact me, they don't have time. They need something and they need it fast. And so this guy was like, happily, like, I will happily accept 23.5 for it. So he takes the 23.5, left me an amazing review, was like really happy with me because he had like a lien on it. I helped him like get it released, sent him all the paperwork and that kind of thing. So anyway, we're in the process of selling that one right now. We have a buyer and they're going through a lending company, so it is a process, but we're selling that for 60,000.
That is the highest price that you've sold for a home?
No, I think we've
Okay.
sold for over that, but here's what makes it such a good deal. I didn't do anything. Like, I negotiated with the seller. I paid them off. We did wind up walking the home and it had an atrocious smell of cat pee, which I fortunately found some kind of odor removal company that took care of it, like for $1,200. So other than that $1,200 and then like 2 months of holding costs, I mean, I think we're all in like 25 or 26 on this home and it's selling for 60. And I mean, I literally did nothing. You know what I'm
Good.
saying?
Good.
Those are my favorite deals.
Yes. Agreed.
Because we do deals like that where we make that same kind of profit, but we spent 2 months doing a rehab and sourcing the material and finding the contractor and having paperwork signed, and you know what I'm saying? So
Which
those,
isn't like that's definitely part of this business. Those
yeah,
deals where you don't have to touch them. Like if you just did those deals, you'd be passing up other good opportunities that take more work
yeah,
or being more creative or
yeah. So, but I think I don't know. I think that, I think you just kind of learn well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think you just kind of get a better idea of how to do deals and what you're really looking for, which ones are going to turn and burn. And it's not to say that they're not worth rehabbing, but I think there's a time and a place for it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, there is.
something that I've learned with rehabs though is if you have, if you have the right amount of leads, it might be better to, I don't know. I'm not going to say I recommend this, but sometimes, you could spend 2.5, 3 months like rehabbing a home, and make, let's say you make $40,000 profit on it. That should be standard. Um, so yeah, let's say you spend 2, 3 months doing that, you make $40,000, but in the meantime, you had 3 or 4 leads that were like, they were quick, like turn and burn, like buy them and just resell them immediately, that you could have made, 15 each on, which would have been worth more of your time. You know what I'm saying? So I think right now, when we're at the point where we're kind of weeding through the leads and deciding which ones we're going to do and which ones we're not going to do, this is where I'm trying to really refine the process of what is going to make me the most money for my time.
You are exactly right. Your
Yeah.
definition of like skinny deals changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. There were so many deals I brought to you, and I don't think you realized how little leads I was working with at the time. And you were like, I don't know, like, do you want to do that deal? You're only going to make like $5,000. And I was like, or you didn't say it in a mean way. You were just like, like, are you sure? Because you're going to have to do a lot of work. And I think it's probably only going to sell for about 5 more than what you're putting into it. And I remember at the time being like, yeah, because that's $5,000. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have anything right now. $5,000 is a big deal. But now if there's something that's only going to profit $5,000, I'm like, I can't do that. It's not worth my time, because to do that one would cost me making 20 grand on this deal. You know what I'm saying? So you take what you can get until you get to choose.
Whoa, great, man. That should be like a t-shirt or something, or some kind of bumper sticker. That's
I'm sure.
really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a cool thing. Uh, thank you so much for this. I am the family that knows what you're doing. They have got to be super, super proud of you. I am so
Yeah.
proud of you for everything you've done to stand up and all this stuff I don't know. I'm learning some new things on this podcast about the trials and tribulation of being
Yeah.
Megan, yeah, and growing your business.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Do you have um anything else you'd like to discuss? Any things that have changed your life? Uh I assume that, I mean, there's so much more we can talk about.
I
Um,
know. Um,
or any
but
advice
yeah,
to newer folks? And actually, maybe in another year, I'd love to have you back on.
yeah, yeah. So I think the only thing that I really um I mean, I hope that this obviously is encouraging to many people, from any walk of life, but in particular for stay-at-home moms who maybe are struggling financially, and just feeling like, what am I going to do? And just not wanting to outsource raising your kids, but you don't know, you don't feel like you have any other options. I think that this is 100% worthwhile, and you don't have to have it all figured out. Just start learning as much as you can. And if you can really just envision yourself doing this and making it happen, I think that's all you need. You just have to have that vision. And yeah, like, you don't have to be stuck. I I don't think I had anything that, no, somebody else doesn't have, because I really had nothing. I didn't have anyone to watch my kids. I'm not gonna say I didn't have anyone to watch my kids. I didn't want to leave my kids with anyone, because I knew they wouldn't be comfortable, and I didn't want to do that. So, with that being said, I didn't have anybody to watch my kids. I didn't have a dime to my name. I didn't have a good credit score. Like, I didn't have anything really. But I just believed, like, I just was like, I'm gonna make it happen. It sounds stupid, and that's why I didn't tell anyone, but I was like, I'm gonna make it happen. And then I think that just me doing that and me pushing forward and me chugging forward and believing in myself made other people believe in me and invest in me. And that was like, it wound up just being a superpower, almost, just to believe in myself. So yeah, I hope that it encourages, in particular, moms who may feel like, they want to be able to create financial freedom. They don't want to live the way that they're living right now.
That is incredible. Thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah,
Moving forward, this is still a journey. We're still learning. I'm still learning. I mean, there's things about mobile homes and parks I'm still learning. You have to continue your journey.
yeah,
We're all on these journeys together, but I'm not going anywhere. We'll continue talking, and I'd love to talk more about outsourcing and automating some stuff.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
that's incredible. Thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you for having me.